ICE raids are fucking nuts, man. Watching this protest on television, it's like...
Do you think the raids are nuts?
All of it's
yeah.
nuts.
I think both sides are taking it a little too hard.
Well, I don't think if the Trump administration, if they're running and they said, we're going to go to Home Depot and we're going to arrest all the people at Home Depot, we're going to go to construction sites and we're going to just like tackle people at constructions. I don't think anybody would have signed up for that. They said, we're going to get rid of the criminals and the gang members first, right? And now we're seeing like Home Depots get raided. Like, that's crazy.
Quote, if Trump had said that we're going to go to Home Depot and arrest everyone, tackle people at construction sites, I don't think anyone would have signed up for that. Those are Joe Rogan's exact words. In other words, he has wised up to the fact that you could fly a 777 in the space between what Trump promises as a candidate and what he actually does as president. The guy is the world's most prolific and shameless liar. In fact, take a listen to exactly what Trump promised during the campaign.
Immediately upon taking the oath of office, I will launch the largest deportation program in American history. We will put, and I don't like saying that, you know, the record is Dwight Eisenhower, who was essentially a moderate, good president. General Eisenhower, good president, good general, probably a very good general, right? Better than he gets credit. He never got credit for a lot of things. He built the interstate system, actually. He should get a lot of credit. But he was a very good president. But he was a moderate guy. But he has the record for deportation because he could not stand people pouring into the country. And I think we'll break that record. Not that I want to break it, but we have no choice. We have to get all of these criminals, these murderers and drug dealers and everything. We're getting them out. And we'll put these vicious and bloodthirsty criminals in jail or kick them the hell out of our country, and we'll get them out. Ideally, we want to get them out because we don't want to have to pay for their room and board for the next 50 years, right?
Hear those words he used? Murderers, drug dealers, vicious, bloodthirsty criminals. That is who he promised to round up. And by the way, I'm in favor of that. We all are. You're not going to find anyone, left, right, or center, going to bat for murderers, no matter what color skin they have. If you're white or black or brown, undocumented or native-born, if you are a criminal, a murderer, then you should be held to account for your crimes. And if you are undocumented and you commit a violent crime, then you should be deported. But that's not what's happening with these ICE raids. According to the latest data, as of June 14th, ICE has booked into detention 204,297 individuals since October 1st, 2024, the start of the fiscal year 2025. Of those bookings, 65%, or over 133,000 individuals, had no criminal convictions. Moreover, more than 93% of ICE bookings were never convicted of any violent offenses. About 9 in 10 had no convictions for violent or property offenses. Most convictions, 53%, fell into 3 main categories: immigration, traffic, or nonviolent vice crimes. 93% were never convicted of any violent offense. And yet Trump had promised to go after the hardened criminals. Those people account for all of 7% of those taken by these ICE agents. The rest are people who contribute to society, who build our homes, who pick our food, and who pay taxes but derive no benefit, like Social Security, retirement benefits, Medicare, food stamps, Medicaid, unemployment insurance. In 2022, immigrants paid a staggering $97 billion in taxes, even though they won't be able to receive any benefits. If you're one of those people who complains about paying too much taxes in the United States of America, now imagine you get nothing in return. No unemployment, no Social Security, no Medicare or Medicaid. That's what these immigrants do. And the thanks they get for paying into a system that they derive no benefit from, for working long hours in poor conditions, doing jobs that we won't do, is that now they have to live in constant fear of being ripped away from their families every single day. Every time they leave the house, because the president of the United States is an unrepentant racist whose calling in life is to disappear brown people? As far as Donald Trump's promises of targeting just the hardened criminals, take a look at some of the clips that I'm going to show you here, and let me know if you think that these are the people that he was talking about, that he promised to target. Here's what it looks like at the Home Depots across the country that Rogan was discussing.
Reports of multiple people detained outside of a Home Depot.
Hey, what happened to you, bro? They shot you in the head? You all right?
The man says, my friend started yelling, ICE, ICE, ICE. I thought he was joking, but he wasn't. Then I saw all the day laborers starting to run.
At this particular location, as you can see, many activists have shown up because they heard about a raid. Maybe some workers might be affected by this. We don't know how many. And earlier, there was a problem here because there's so many activists that they actually arrested and took a union president, David Huerta from SEIU, USWW, the janitors union.
And it's not just Home Depot. They're literally going into fields to find immigrants, literally picking the food we eat.
Hay varias patrullas.
Válgame. ¿Y eso?
Pues quién sabe. Ya se llevan uno.
¿Adentro?
Sí.
Llegaría por alguno que ya...
You cannot claim that you are going after the worst of the worst when you are literally going into random fields to find any brown people you can scoop up to meet your quotas. In fact, this isn't even the first time that Rogan himself has expressed disgust at what's happening at the hands of Donald Trump. Here he is discussing last month's deportations to CCOT.
But the thing is, like, you got to get scared that people who are not criminals are getting, like, lassoed up and deported and sent to, like, El Salvador prisons. I read some story. Was it Glenn Greenwald?
It was. Yeah. The gay barber guy. Yeah. It's scary, man.
Is that true? Is that story accurate?
With a bunch of these Agua guys, allegedly they got at least one guy who wasn't a criminal, who was just a gay barber who I think, according to the story, came here legally. When you do things quickly and you do things aggressively, that's how you get done. But that's also when mistakes get made.
Right.
And I think a human being being plucked out of nowhere and ending up in a country he's never been in a maximum security prison with gang members, seems like a bad thing to happen to me.
It's horrific. It's horrific.
I don't think that should be controversial.
No, that's not controversial at all. Again, that's bad for the cause. Like, the cause is, let's get the gang members out. Everybody agrees. But let's not innocent gay hairdressers get lumped up with the gangs, and then, like, how long before that guy can get out? Is there any plan in place to alert the authorities that they've made a horrible mistake and correct it?
Well, if you think about it from a government perspective, and this is where I think it gets quite sinister, is once you've done that, the incentive structure is never going to be to admit that and deal with it. The incentive structure is to say nothing, to cover it up, to pretend it didn't happen.
But this is what Trump does. He promises one thing during the campaign and delivers something entirely different. He promised lower costs and immediately sent costs surging thanks to his trade war. He promised not to touch earned benefits, and his first budget decimates Medicaid and food stamps. He promised law and order and immediately freed 1,500 insurrectionists from January 6th, many of whom ended up back in prison because they can't stop committing crimes. He promised no war and immediately launched a war in Iran. He promised fiscal responsibility, and his budget deal would explode the deficit by $3.5 trillion. He promised to go after hardened criminals and instead went after the hardworking immigrants who keep this country running. Donald Trump is an insecure demagogue who derives his worth by punching down on the most vulnerable. But the reality is that the people that he targets have contributed more in one day's work than Donald Trump has in a lifetime spent stiffing contractors, hawking shit products, and using his position of power to consolidate more wealth for himself. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.